Moshe, my servant, is dead. This is what Joshua's told. Well, what does that mean to him? I mean, I have questions. I just have questions. When you look at Deuteronomy 34, and you read the account there, basically it just says, Moshe went up to the mountain, he died, they mourned for 30 days. Um, how did they find out? How did they know? Did somebody go up to the mountain to find him? Did Yehovah just tell him? Why 30 days? Where did that come from? Just because it's in the story doesn't mean that Yehovah mandated that. I mean, it's in there. So I have questions, but anyway, I digress. Verse 1 tells us that Joshua was a servant to Moshe. So what does it mean to be a servant? I'm not going to go through all the little bitty intricacies. Go look at the word, go study it out for yourself because it's really kind of neat. But what it all boils down to is that being a servant, and we talk about servant leadership all the time, being a servant is work. It's tilling the ground. That's the first place we see that Hebrew word used is in Genesis 2:15 when it's talking about tilling the ground. And so being a servant leader is work. And if you're in this place, just as Charlie was saying earlier, you're a leader. Someone is following you, whether you want them to or not. Somebody is following you. Someone is looking to you. As I was praying about this earlier, I thought of this example, and I hope that you guys understand that when we use personal examples, it's just because it's what we know and what we can draw from. But I moved to New Braunfels to be near my best friend and her family. And so when I talk about her kids, they are my nieces and nephews because that's how I love them. That's how they love me. They call me Auntie M. And so I really thought I moved here for me. And through a couple of different instances, I have seen where I also moved here for them. They say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And so I left the house the other day and I was like, bye, see you later. That's what I do. And the youngest daughter, she goes, oh my goodness, that's where I got that. She goes, I was at rehearsal the other day and she said, I was like this. And she said, I couldn't figure out where did I get that? And she's like, I got it from you. And so it touched my heart. And I was like, see, there are people watching all the time. And sometimes we don't even give it that credence, that attention that it needs. So let's go back to looking at Joshua and where he is, because his name means whose Yehovah is salvation. So put yourself in his place at that moment. This spiritual leader who brought all of these people through such an amazing time. And imagine the bond that they would have together as Joshua served him and as he followed the Father and what the Father was telling him to do. So they developed this deep bond. And now you look around you, your mentor has died. Everyone's mourning. Is everyone in sackcloth and ashes? What does that look like? Was it major depressing? I would think it would be. It was hard. It was a hard thing that he went through. And we know how that goes. The leadership has been thrust upon him in this very moment. And now it's his responsibility to take them into the promised land. And you know that some people didn't want to go. They were probably not ready to stop mourning, but it was the word of Yehovah who said, Moshe, my servant, is dead. Let's go. Okay, those aren't his exact words, but you know what I'm saying. So have you ever been a part of a ministry or something like that where you felt like everything was just amazing? You were riding high on that spiritual horse, whatever it was, because it was good and people were being changed, lives were being changed, things were being learned that you'd never seen before. And then all of a sudden, something dramatic happens and it's drastically changed. And all of a sudden, everything has to be different. So where did that leave you? What choices did you make in that moment? What choices did you make? Did you lay down? And listen, I'm talking to me too. Did you lay down? Did you stop doing the work? Did you stop what it was that he called you to do, the place that he put you, your position in the body, whatever that looks like? I have a friend who washes dishes. That's what she loves to do. And whenever there's a gathering, she has a towel over her shoulder, and that's what she's doing is washing dishes. And I appreciate that from her because I don't have to do it. But there is a place for every single one of us in the body and what it is that we are called to do. So the Israelites were part of the previous move of Yehovah, right? This dramatic, amazing, miraculous occurrence. They were all a part of that. And now the leader of that movement is gone. So what in the world are they going to do now? What are they going to do? They're stuck. And Yehovah gave the word and said, hey, it's time to move on. Let's go. You've had 30 days. Let's move on. Let's do what we need to do. Let's get across and take this land. So it's hard to be in that place when we are spiritually in a high place and suddenly everything is different. It's hard to be in that place. There's pride at being a part of the in crowd, a part of the what he's doing right now, a part of the cutting edge of ministry and the things that he is doing in the world in his body. It's really sometimes what blinds us, and it prevents us from entering into his presence, entering into his present work in the kingdom. Sometimes we're stuck in that place. Israel didn't do that. I mean, they moved on because that's what they were told and that's what they did. But time stops for us in those moments, and we can't eat yesterday's manna anymore. This quote is from an article that I found on David's tent. And it says, the ability to honor and appreciate previous moves of Yah while hungering humbly for the Ruach's next stirrings is the challenge that faced Joshua. And that's the challenge that faces us all the time, every day. And I'm not saying anything about this ministry. I'm talking about you as an individual, as a leader in your home, in your congregations, in this organization, all of those things. So let's look at how this kind of happened throughout Christianity. You know, things happened, things changed, and movements grew. And Methodists had to deal with Nazarene holiness, and they were so opposed. Oh no, that's not right. That's not right. The Nazarenes had to deal with Pentecostal. Then they had to deal with the charismatics. And I always kind of put them together in one group, but I guess they're, in some ways they are, in some ways they're not. And then there was prophetic and intercessory movements and all of those things. And right now, the movement is Israel's restoration in progress. And it's amazing to be a part of that, to be on the cutting edge of what it is that the Ruach is trying to communicate and do. So not everyone was ready to cross the Jordan. Let's talk about Luke 5. And in case you're wondering, the scripture reference for the very beginning is Joshua chapter 1. The first 9 verses is really kind of what it was. But let's look at Luke 5. I want to read this to you. Sorry, I thought I had it marked, but I have a different one marked. And I'm reading from the scriptures version, Luke 5:37 through 39. And it says, and no one puts new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise, the new wine will burst the wineskins and run out, and the wineskins shall be ruined. But new wine is put into fresh wineskins, and both are preserved. And no one, listen to this, Yeshua knew this about us. He knew as humans what we would do. And no one, having drunk old wine, immediately desires new wine, for he says, the old is better. Now, how many times do we get stuck? This is how we get stuck. We are looking to we're looking to a leader, we're looking to whatever, and we are not pliable and tender to the Ruach and what it is that he's attempting to do in us, for us, through us, and for others. And so this is how we get stuck. Disciples always imitate their leader. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what we're told. Even Yeshua told us that. So think about a young Baptist preacher and preaching with his handkerchief and mopping his brow, because that's what he saw his mentor do. That's what he did. We still see disciples that imitate their leaders today. We see things all the time. But ultimately, we have to keep our eyes on the prize. We have to keep our eyes on Yeshua. We have to keep our eyes on the kingdom and what it is that he is leading us into, so that we can stay on the cutting edge and continue to bring his kingdom to fruition. And it's not an easy task. I want to encourage you to do this, because we are called to serve, right? We're called to serve when we can, when we have the time, when we have the energy, all of those things. We're called to serve how we can. What's your gift? What are you called to do? What were you given? We're called to serve as wisely as we can, not spinning our wheels and wasting our time. And I spent some time in ministry to a girl. This story came to my mind of basically, I was spending time in ministry. She was in a coven, and I was ministering to her and attempting to help her through that, because she said she wanted free. But then she turned around like a dog to its vomit. And finally, I just had to be like, I can't do any more, because all the work that's being done, you're undoing. And that was what was wisdom for me in that moment. And then we have to serve who we can. Where are you right in this moment? In your home, in your workplace, in your congregation, in the Rooted Cafe? Where are you, and who are the people that you are ministering to? That's what you're called to in this moment. That's what you're called to. So what is your gifting? Let's read 1 Peter 4:10. And it says, as each one has received a gift, serve one another as good trustees of the manifold favor of Elohim. So I encourage you to serve, and I encourage you to be the leader that you have been designed to be. Thanks.